Hello and welcome to episode 4 of Techtonic Talks. Today we are joined by Jenni York. Thank you for joining us, Jenni.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you.
So Jenni is a founder of 2 tech startup companies and graduated with a Bachelor of Applied Science, Communication and Media Studies from the University of Miami. And she also holds an MBA from the University of Westminster. I think we're right in thinking that you're a keen artist as well.
Yes, I am. My background actually comes from animation. I worked at Netflix Animation, starting my career in California, but quickly got pulled away after 2 years to the tech world.
So our podcast is based on our reporter Saleha Kwong's story about a £7.5 million investment in women in tech startups. And so today we're speaking with Jenni, who is also a woman in tech, about all things tech and women in STEM.
Yes.
Basically girl bosses.
Yes, we'll come back on to the term girl boss as well, because it'll be interesting to see what your thoughts are on that sort of term.
I actually love to say CEO.
Jenni, you mentioned that you're a 2-time tech startup founder. So do you mind talking a little bit about your startup companies for us?
Absolutely. So back in 2022, I became co-founder of a Web3 platform called Passes. And that I actually started with the co-founder of Scale AI, which is a very big platform. It was, one of the original AI years ago. And my CEO, she ended up becoming the youngest self-made female billionaire. That company, I was there for about a year, and then I wanted to go off and do my own thing. So I became connected with someone who was actually my mentor at the time. And she said that she was building a wellness tech company and a directory so people can find alternative medicine. That was creating a web app and an iPhone app. And my third startup, I am in stealth mode, but it's something very different than what I've created before. And it's actually more so a medical device.
Jenni, you work in venture capital essentially. So you're gaining a lot of sort of investments for your startups. But let's break that down. So venture capital, what is that? Am I right in thinking that we can liken venture capital to, in the UK we have Dragon's Den, in the States we have Shark Tank. How do you go about gaining investment for your startups?
Absolutely. I mean, there's so many ways to find funding, and I think it's really important to differentiate angel investing versus venture capital. And there's also a lot of non-dilutive funding routes. Really, when I stepped into venture capital over the last few months, it was through a venture capitalist in Santa Monica, California. And interestingly enough, I actually connected with them over a year ago because at the time, I was CEO and co-founder of a wellness startup, and I was accepted into their accelerator program just as a founder. Now, it's very interesting being on the other side of it because founders, they struggle. They go through so much, and I wanted to be on the other side of it. See, okay, like what are investors really looking for? And how can you stand out in a world right now when there's so many of the same products, and how can you stay innovative? So venture capital is really interesting because venture capital money is rocket fuel. And then you have your rocket and then you shoot it up to the moon. Literally, you have to be ready to launch. And if founders or companies, startups aren't at that stage yet, then they shouldn't be venture backed.
Why is that the case? Why do you think there aren't many women in venture capital?
Well, I said something interesting to Saleha, and I want to expand on that because it wasn't in the article. But when you are forming a startup, it is very important to have that 100% full-time commitment. Because we know what's happening in the world. Men get paid more than women. A lot of women still need to support themselves, their family, their children, and you don't. So I feel, my old startup, my co-founder, she wasn't full-time on it. And I was the only one full-time. And I think that really plays a large role in, are men going to take you seriously if you're not like fully in, or there's more risk that's involved. And
But do you find that discriminatory?
absolutely, absolutely.
You said that in the States that you found that there are a lot more BCs who are women. Why do you think there is that cultural difference between here and, the US? That's interesting.
I think it's just West is more developed. And here after observing and even speaking to people about it, I think that and it's not, it's just an observation. It's not criticizing by any means, that areas are still developing because it's an older city. And a lot of founders, CTOs or whomever, they're saying that VCs in the US move so quickly. And when I was in the US, I even thought, are they moving quickly? Because I think we are just conditioned that way, which isn't always the healthiest thing, but it's a kind of a cultural difference in that world, and why a lot of people want to enter the US market, because it's obviously fiercely competitive, but there's so much opportunity there.
Yeah.
And funding.
How does this reflect, though, on work-life balance? Because again, I see a distinction between sort of European markets and, Western markets in the States. How does venture capital map onto the work-life culture, essentially?
I don't even think we should just talk about venture capital in this, case. It's so important to talk about work-life balance. And it's like, if I'm running a team, the most important thing is their well-being, but unfortunately, that's not the case for everyone. Personally, I've experienced extreme burnout a few years ago, and I had to stop working for a while. And as a woman too, even our bodies are, obviously our bodies are different than men, and we can only take so much, and that's why it's so important to take care of yourself. Startup culture and, everything that's in between, the investment, the go-to market, it's a grind. Yes, it's the grind culture. And I have seen a lot of women burn out. And I've also seen men burn out, which is, it's not really one or the other, but I think women also have it harder.
So speaking of the grind mindset, we use the term girl boss and CEO earlier in this episode. Do you want to kind of talk a little bit about how you got into these CEO positions at these startup companies?
People are born leaders. Someone can become a manager, but are they a leader? They can maybe lead a team, but also someone very creative. I have visions, and with the entrepreneurial nature, you just always want to be building and creating. And we all go through our life and our journey, and I feel like my work journey over the last 5 years has been quite difficult because I've been in extreme startup environments. And if anything, it's made me stronger and want to pursue this more and build more confidence, because honestly, we need women with that energy to lead. And, there's a part of the article that says, and I'm surprised Soleil is saying this, is that I would rather now walk into a room full of men than, of course I'd walk into a room full of women, but I am not afraid to. I think, being fearless is not the easiest quality to have, but I think that just having that confidence to, tell someone who's very arrogant and presumptuous and tries to make you small, I take that as an opportunity to say, you're wrong.
Speaking of CEO and terms such as girl boss, Soleil mentioned in her story the tech bro renaissance, which I found was really interesting. Do you want to explain a little bit what that sort of means in the tech world?
Absolutely, yes. I absolutely love what Soleil came up with. It was a surprise to me, but it's interesting because I just want to point out one story. It was the first week of my MBA, and a classmate of mine asked what I do, or I think I just raised my hand in class saying I'm a two-time tech founder. And she said, "Oh, so you're a tech bro?" And I looked at her and I laughed. I said, "I guess I am." Just, brushing it off, because I don't take things like that personally, but it's just the fact that that term has been so normalized. When I got pulled out of my career at Netflix to go into tech because of women, because of the tech girls. And I'll never forget, it was in Miami Tech Week a few years ago. I didn't even realize it was Tech Week, but I end up in this group and everyone was actually from Los Angeles and I lived there at the time. So we created a friend group. They all became my friends after, but I was like, how did I end up in this circle of brilliant women under 30 years old building products? I've exited, and I said, I want to be involved in this world. It seems so exhilarating and a way to express your creativity, but why does it have to be the tech bros? So I think, again, this connotation has been attached to with technology and men, and now can be a turning point.
So that's the Renaissance.
Yes.
That's where the Renaissance comes in.
So, Jenni, with the shifting landscape of women venture capitalists gaining perhaps more funding with particular funds available to them, what is your vision then for women in the industry, but also for yourself? Where do you see yourself in 5 years' time?
I think for women in the industry is, of course, just giving them more funding opportunities and actually funding them. It's not having these huge gaps in funding men versus women. I think it's just closing that gap within the next 5 years, 100%. For myself, I would like to contribute to that by being an angel investor, supporting a lot of women-only startups. But also, it depends. And on top of that, continue to center myself in the London ecosystem to support as much as possible, regardless of what they need, and to scale and transform and really bring these systems up to date with what's happening in the West. Someone was telling me the other day that they wish that they could make London like the little Silicon Valley. I was like, why? He's like, it's so concentrated. I was like, but we can make that happen. So why not? So that's one of my goals too. But do it London style.
Thank you so much, Jenni, for speaking with us about women in tech. We really appreciate your time.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for joining us. And if you'd like to read more about Soleia's story, head over to www.thetechtonicmag.com.
Thanks for listening.